balanced it out. That way I rip out considerably less.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Actually, sure, right now, my it'll shift, but I do want to give you an update on D2. It's a strict appreciation. In the past, we've always moved that up before it was public.
Absolutely. Well, providing that consensus, I think we will.
Just to kind of make the consistent change with what was done.
No problem.
Thank you.
So that you know it's April, May, June, yeah, okay.
Yeah, last year it was super hot, so we ended up having to start
Excuse me. I'm getting an electronic interference on one of the microphones. If someone has a telephone real close to it, pull it away. Thank you.
I wonder who that.
I knew, I knew as soon as he said electronic interference, I was like, oh, that's me.
I want to make sure I turn this off.
All right, it's 9 o'clock, which is our new time, which we did that in December. All right, we're gonna start with, we're called to order. Pledge of Allegiance, if everyone would please stand, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. We'll start off with a roll call. Mr. Bramlett?
Here.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mrs. Nelson?
Here.
All right. Mrs. Myers?
here.
I am here, as you can tell. Mrs. Ramlow?
Here.
Mrs. Benefield?
Here.
Mr. Reagan? Here. Mrs. Ebbets?
Here.
And that would be it. Okay. All right, so seeing that everyone is present, we will go into now the oath of office for the newly appointed and reappointed members. Mr. Director.
Okay. So for this next part with the oath of office, if I can, we're going to go each one, take one at a time. If I can have you stand, and then I'm just going to read a short kind of paragraph, and if you just repeat after what I say, and that will kind of complete our oath of office. Okay? So, all right, Lorraine, you're first.
Okay.
All right. So after this part, after I say I just need you to say your name, and then just kind of repeat. So I
I, Lorraine Benefield,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Florida,
and the Constitution of the State of Florida,
and that I will faithfully perform
and I will faithfully perform
the duties of the position
the duties of the position
of Citrus County Special Library District Advisory Board member,
of Citrus County Special Advisory Library Board member
according to the best of my skills and judgment.
to the best of my skills and judgment.
All right.
All right.
Oh, I assumed.
Oh, no. Katie, you're next. Oh, okay, yeah.
I know.
All right. I
I, Katie Myers,
do solemnly swear that I will support
do do solemnly swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Florida,
and the Constitution of the State of Florida,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
of the position of
of the position of
Citrus County Special Library District Advisory Board Member,
Citrus County Special
Library
Library
District
District
Advisory Board Member,
Advisory Board Member,
according to the best of my skills and judgment.
according to the best of my skills and judgment.
Thank you. All right, I got these a little out of order. Riss, you would have been next, but I didn't
Go
see
ahead.
it was double-sided, so you're up. All right. So I
I, Russ Campbell,
do solemnly swear that I will support
do solemnly swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Florida,
and the Constitution of the State of Florida,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of the position of
of the position of
Citrus County Special Library District Advisory Board Member,
Citrus County Special Library Advisory Board Member,
according to the best of my skills and judgment.
according to the best of my skills and judgment.
Thank you. All right, Justin?
All right.
All right, I
I, Justin Strickland,
do solemnly swear that I will support
do solemnly swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Florida,
and the Constitution of the State of Florida,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of the position of
the position of
Citrus County Special Library District Advisory Board Member,
Citrus County Special Library District Advisory Board Member,
according to the best of my skills and judgment.
according to the best of my skills and judgment.
Thank you.
So help me God.
And then just after this meeting, if I could have the four of you meet with me, I've got to get you to sign and notarize this. But it'll be real brief. Thank you.
Right. So the next part of this business is we must appoint, nominate, and appoint a chair and a vice chair. So the way this works is there's a motion to appoint a chair and a vice chair, and then there's a second, or not a second, but typically there's a second, and then we vote on it. And if there's any discussion, there obviously can be discussion after the second. So, do we have any nominations for chair and vice chair?
I nominate Justin to continue in the chair position.
Okay,
Ditto.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so we can do chair first, and sometimes we do them both the same, but this is fine, we can do that. So we have a nomination and a second. Do we have any discussion? All right, we want to take a vote. All in favor, or well, we can do this as a roll call vote. Mr. Bramlett,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mrs. Nelson,
Aye.
Mrs. Myers.
Aye.
I will abstain. Mrs. Ramlo,
Aye.
Mrs. Benefield,
Aye.
Mr. Reagan, and Mrs. Ibbets.
Aye.
Okay. All right. So hearing we have a chair elected. All right. Now we need to take a nomination and a motion for nomination and a second for vice chair. So I would like to nominate Mrs. Ramlo as vice chair. If do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Do we have any, so seeing we have a motion and a second, do we have any discussion? Oh, all right. All in favor, or well, we'll do a roll call. Mr. Bramlett?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Nelson?
Aye.
Mrs. Myers?
Aye.
Aye. Mrs. Ramlo? Mrs. Benefield?
Aye.
Mr. Reagan? And Mrs. Ibbets?
Aye.
All right, so seeing we have a chair and a vice chair elected. All right. Next is, of course, the approval of the previous minutes. We had, I would say this, I would like to do this right at this moment to, well, let's go ahead and go through with that. Approval of the previous minutes. So you should have all received a emailed copy of the minutes for December's meeting. I do realize that some of you were not serving on the board at that time, but however, you should have received those minutes. Would anyone like to make first of all, an adjustment to the meetings? Everybody in favor of the meetings, or the minutes, rather,
Move the minutes be accepted.
as written?
As
Okay,
written.
second, we have a nomination, or a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Anyone not in favor? All right, seeing we have sounds unanimous. Okay. So the next thing is we do have in our special items, D2, which is a certification of appreciation for Mrs. Elaine Clyde. We typically try to move that above the open to the public section. So I would like to make a motion to move that certification of appreciation for Elaine Clyde do I have a second?
Yes.
All right. Would anyone like to have discussion for that? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, so moved. So we will move into that. Mr. Director.
All right, thank you, Chair. Elaine, thank you for being here today. We just want to give you a certificate for appreciation for your time on the board. As library director, I personally appreciate the last couple years I've gotten to work with you, gotten to know you a little better. You've come to the meetings, you've volunteered your time, you've always, given your opinion on the board, and have always worked towards helping benefit and grow our library. So I appreciate that. And we'd like to give you a certificate. So if you want to join me and Chair, if you'd like to come up, we'd like to do a photo with you.
You guys do such a great job. Good, thank you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
All right, ready?
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Clyde, for your service and your time. You were here when I got here, so thank you so much for your time serving on this board. We're going to move to open to the public. Now, let me just make a reminder for everyone. Everyone will have an opportunity to speak who would like to speak. You, of course, need to fill out one of those green cards over there and hand it to Taylor. The next thing is everyone will have 3 minutes. I will do my very best to give you a prompt warning that it is your time has expired. I do ask that everyone respect that. The next thing is what I would like is anyone who is addressing from the podium, if you just make sure you address myself as the chair. I know that there's maybe some various opinions, different things like that, but address everything to me if you would. And that is, please do not address the public, those in the audience, library staff, anything like that. Just address the chair. Next thing is please no applause or outbursts from the crowd, and we will have a wonderful open to the public if we can all do that. Okay? All right, so seeing that, we're open to the public. Would anybody like to speak? And I should say, please state your name when you do get up here, too.
Good morning. My name is Janet Genova from Hernando. I just want to be brief, but I firmly believe in our value to read, our freedom to read. I strongly support our libraries and deeply appreciate the unwavering dedication of our library staff. Welcome to the newly appointed board members and those that have been reappointed. I want to express my gratitude to each of you for your ongoing commitment to this board. Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Good morning, Board. My name is John Labriola. I live in Inverness. And I wanted to address something that came up at the library governing body meeting that happened a couple of weeks ago. First of all, the chair, Rebecca Bays, asked about the change in the age designation, where young adult went from 12 to 18 now to 15 to 18. And she asked specifically what has changed in the libraries in order to implement that. Has there been any changes in signage, anything at all to implement that change? And he answered absolutely nothing has changed in the libraries, including no signage, no nothing has changed. So I think this is an opportunity where we need to revisit the idea of allowing these books that were allowed specifically because of this change in age from 12 to 18 when actually nothing has actually changed. So I would like the board to address this fact. I think Marie-Elaine Ebbett said it was okay because the age had changed. I believe also Robert Bramlett and a couple of other of you approved allowing the books to remain in the young adult section because the age had, I think Lorraine too, I'm sorry. So I think that a number of you made that change specifically based on the premise that the ages had changed from 12 to 15. But Adam Chang at the meeting confirmed that nothing has actually changed, no signage at all. So I would like that to be addressed. I would like that to be addressed today if possible. Maybe a motion made for a full discussion at the next meeting, but I would like it to be addressed today at the very least to acknowledge that that a change needs to be made in that regard. So the other thing was I was kind of upset that one of your obviously former incumbent members, Elaine Clyde, who was, I think, a fantastic member of this body, and I was very upset that she was removed. Anyway, I just wanted to say that as well. Please address the issue of the ages. I think that needs to be addressed again this year. I also feel that we need to address the issue of the purchases of books. 1,300 a month is too many, and we're not really vetting them. So I would like to see a change in the budget come budget time, that we address that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Gil Phelan from Lecanto. I was accused of really enjoying this and making a career of it, but I didn't get any paychecks yet, so I'm still waiting for that one. I don't like to be here. I really don't. And when I see that we're replacing, I love Elaine and her outlook on things, and to see her replaced and some other people on this board that think books talking about queer anal sex for kids is appropriate and wonderful because they're so well studied and so intelligent from college that they know better than we the people. So people do think I'm harsh, and when it comes to perverts trying to groom and sexualize our children, I wish I could be even harsher. When people talk about Christ, the lefties always portray him as some mamby-pamby, weak character who just loves everything. But Scripture does teach us differently. For example, the evil way and the perverted mouth I hate. Hate evil, love good. Abhor what is evil and cling to what is good. Therefore I hate every false way. I hate the assembly of evildoers. And, of course, you've heard about the least of these, that people who let our children be perverted, because the children are definitely the least of these, they should have a millstone tied around their neck and thrown in the river or the sea. So that's not real mamby-pamby sort of stuff. And if you all think that when I read the perversion that you provide for our children out loud, and you object like your hair's on fire, I really don't care. Because this is what we as Christians are supposed to do. We're supposed to fight. If we're followers of Christ, we're supposed to be here fighting evil. And that's what this is. When you're perverting our children, that's evil, okay? Especially with Trump's election, very interesting. I think we're going to be a lot stronger over the next year. This DEI, that's another perverted thing that's disappearing. So we'll be working on all that. But the real question is, the individual who buys that crap, and that would be Adam Chang, he's the one in charge of keeping it in our library. Why is that? If he were to sit down with a young child and read some of this garbage out loud with them, he could be arrested for child exploitation. Yet here he sits 2 years into the fight, and this fill's still available to our children. So my focus is going to be to get rid of Adam Chang, as obviously he's the root of the problem. And he's not doing anything about it. And I hope he enjoys me talking about him and his filthy book selections at every meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Anyone else?
Good morning, Library Board. What I was going to say is just sort
Please,
of...
I'm sorry, please state your name.
Robin Orlandi, Lecanto. I wanted to say congratulations to our new board members, welcome, and many thanks to all of you for your service, including Ms. Clyde, who is no longer on the board. A couple of responses to some of the things that have just been stated. The last comments in particular I find have got me a little verklempt, because the first teaching of Christ is love one another, and I don't feel love, I feel hate, vitriol, and lots of judgment that is unjust and unfairly spoken. And based on my experience and the fact that, yes, I am college educated, but also I am a believer, I feel is unfair and really quite disruptive to the function of this board, which should be to move forward and focus on positive elements of the library. There are so many programs and other positive outcomes for the community, for families and individuals, that the energy is taken away from because of this repeated attack, which it's been stated before. Can we please move on past that? So 1,300 books a year for libraries, 5 libraries in a district of this size is not many books at all. We're getting continual increases in our county population, so I would encourage that the budget numbers be based on data, not opinion. And just saying that I believe in the judgment of this board. Good decisions have been made in the past. We look forward to the new board and seeing what will come in this year and in the years following that. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Elaine Clyde from Lecanto. I just wanted to let you all know that I went to the Department of Justice's website and I read that there is no freedom of speech when it comes to obscenity laws, and the report that I was provided was vulgar and actually stated there was a depiction of a sexual, whether it's in cartoon form or not, it's against the law to present to a child. So that is the reason I refused to read the book. In addition to that, I found it interesting that nobody was able to, like Mike O'Connell was able to speak the words at either this board's podium here or at the commission because they were so vulgar, but yet some people want to put it in a position where children are, accessing it. So I just would caution all of you that want to put content that is, clearly not appropriate for a child in front of them, that there are obscenity laws that prevent that, and there will be prosecutions to people that do it. And I'm very grateful for Kash Patel being the new FBI director, so I just want to say that. So, and I would like to say congratulations to all the new board members. It's a wonderful experience, and I appreciated it very much, in spite of all of the drama. But I don't like my name in the paper, so whoever's putting my name in the paper, if you would stop, please. I think it's harassment, so I'm just going to put that out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Clyde. All right, anyone else? All right, seeing there are no other speakers, we're going to close, open to the public. All right, so we have Typically, after open to the public, we allow the board members to speak if they would like to address certain things with the open to the public. That is purely up to your discretion. The only thing that I would like clarification on, if possible, Director Chang, is with regards to the age change. We went from, of course, 12 to 18 to 15 to 18. What is I watched the meeting and I actually think that you weren't given the opportunity really to explain that. Could you say what exactly is going on with that? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. So with the recommended age range, it's just that it's a recommended, what the library is saying these books in this particular section, young adult, are suited for 15 to 18. That's not saying that anybody who wants to read those books can't. It's just that's what we're recommending as a library system. The old kind of number that was kind of thrown out at previous meetings was 12 to 18. I know there was a comment about signage, about, do we have signage that says this? We did not have signage prior to this that said 12 to 18. There's no signage that now says 15 to 18. So I just want to make sure that there was no signage removed, there was no signage added in that regard. There are probably, I'm trying to add it up in my head, about 20 or 22 categories of books that we have in the library. None of them have any kind of age range attached to them, the physical signage. We have board books for children, which is almost the cardboard style books. We have early readers, we have picture books, we have young adult, we have adult mystery, graphic novels, juvenile graphic novels. None of those do have any kind of signage attached to them. So what we're doing basically is just recommending those. What we've been doing in kind of behind the scenes and through this process of those reviews is looking at materials that fit in that young adult section or had previously fit in that young adult section and shifting them to other areas of the collection where they belong. It's not a finished product yet. We're still working on that. Our young adult section is one of our smaller collections, but it still houses probably thousands of books. So we're just making sure that those books are where we want them to be in that 15 to 18 range. And our juvenile section as well, looking at those if some of those need to move up as well. We've identified a few that we've moved, but it's an ongoing process to make sure that we are getting them in those correct sections where we believe if they're adult, if they're young adult, or if they're in that juvenile section based on that 15 to 18 recommended criteria.
Okay, so basically, from what I'm understanding, is the age recommendation has changed a little bit of the in-house stuff with how certain things are classified where they go.
Yes.
Basically, okay. So, that kind of answers my question on that one. Yes?
I don't know how to unmute.
You don't have to.
Okay. So my question is if we have an age range difference now, are we finding that, is it allowed to have adult books in that kids section? Because would you see an adult, we'll say a smut book in the kids section? And if there's stuff that's there now that these kids have access to, why is it in that young adult from was it 15 to 18? So why are there books that are explicit there, even though the age range says 15 to 18? Why is that not moved into the 18 up? Because I have a problem with if we're gonna make changes to age, and we'll say some of these books are available to young kids, I don't think it should be in the kids section at all.
The young adult section.
Yeah, young adult section.
Sure. So we have looked at a number of books in the young adult section, and there were some that were moved to adult, some that have stayed in the young adult through kind of that review process. We are continuously looking at those things to make sure that we have those age range where we're updating that. So right now I wouldn't say that there are, it's difficult for me because when we talk about the different age ranges and sections, we mentioned the children's section, and yes, anybody under 18 is a child. But when you're looking at, in the youth room, we have books that are these picture books. They're early readers, they're board books. They're those ones that we give to our youngest readers. Young adult is in an entirely separate section. Closer to the adult section, it's separated out. So I think it's a little difficult to say that, when you mention why are these in the children's section, they're more in line they're not in the particular room. It's a separate room, even though those books aren't in there. I just want to make sure that it's clear that those are in separated areas.
Well, I just want to make sure we understand that a minor is a minor.
Yes.
Anybody under the age of 18 should not be exposed to anything that's going to be explicit. I'd also like to point out that it's 20-year anniversary of Jessica Lunsford, being murdered here in the county, and the heinous crimes that happen with that. And you have books that are ultimately glorifying, some of these acts, and it's hard for me to understand why it would even be in a minor section. So I think we definitely need to review that, and I'm glad to be here to be able to ask these questions.
Also, did it change how these books were classified when people look them up?
Yes.
That's what the classification. So it wasn't on this, other than moving young adult to adult, it was classified different. So if somebody goes to look up a book, it's now a young adult book.
Correct, yes. So it's not only just physically moving the book, there is behind-the-scenes records that we're updating that do move that to that shelving location, yes.
So then, and my second question is then, what is the standard criteria that we're looking at to judge those 15 to 18-year-old books by? Because the 12 to 14 are going back in the children's section. So is someone going through those shelves? Is that what you said you were in the process of moving 12 to 14-year-old books back and then leaving the 15 to 18? And then, so that's the first question. Then the second question is then, what is the standard criteria that's being used to judge those books? Is there like some kind of a list that you use that, goes by what Elaine has mentioned, what we've mentioned here before? I heard a gentleman that was a businessman mention obscenity laws. How do we know what we're doing there? Because we're accountable for that.
Sure. So we are looking at that in a variety of ways. One of the standards had typically been kind of reading level, but that's not necessarily the easiest marker at this point. It's publishers' recommended reading level is kind of what was there. We're looking at the content of the book in terms of the characters. That's kind of an easy starting point for us to say, kids in elementary school, if it's a book about a kid in elementary school who's maybe 9 years old, that's a clear indication that is not a young adult audience. No young adult child is going to necessarily read that book if they're 15, 16. Those books that feature kids in high school, that kind of age, that 14 to 18 age, if they're in that age, that's kind of grounds for us to say, okay, this might be a young adult topic. It's in that situation.
But you've just contradicted yourself because that doesn't start till 15.
Right.
So if we put that in young adult and it's for 12 to 14, like that's what I'm saying, how are we distinguishing those things?
Right. I wouldn't say it's a hard break to say that if you're looking at young adult, it's not to say that they're just 15 at that age in that book. They could be 14, they could be 19,
Okay.
It can be in that range, but the content is going to be in that age range.
Okay. So, but as far as what we're talking about with the obscenity, what
Right.
is our checklist for that?
So we're looking at that as well. We're looking at what is in those books, what is the content of them. We're looking to kind of give you a quick overview of that. We're looking at when we review the books, if we're taking a deep dive into a particular book, we're looking at what kind of content is in there. Is there romance in there? What does that look like? What is that leading to? Is it anything specific in there? We're also looking at libraries around the state as well, how they classify their materials to give us a good kind of starting point as that to see if other libraries have the same sort of kind of guidelines that we have where they're looking at where books belong. But we're reviewing them by reading them. I've reviewed quite a few of them to make sure that the content is kind of fitting those guidelines that I was talking about, where we're checking the content to see if there's any relationships in there, if there's any young adult situations that might be in those books. I do have a list that I can provide.
That's
to
what
you
I was
if you'd
going
like.
to say. If we don't have that, I would like
Yes.
to make a motion that we have a list
Yes.
of things that are specific that go in
We do.
concordance with this obscenity
Yes.
laws, because to say relations does not have enough specifics. To
Right.
say romance does not have enough specifics to say if this book is appropriate for a minor.
Right. I can drill down further into that. I've got a list of topics that we do look for that may be contained in those materials. It is relationships. It is kind of high school. It's getting into that kind of going off to college almost level. It talks about
So-
sensitive topics like sometimes there's drug use in those books. Sometimes there's those kind of heavier topics are kind of starting to fit in that young adult area where they're not in that juvenile section, if that makes
Right.
a little
I
more
understand
sense.
that, but we're primarily talking the sexual content. What is the line is what I'm asking of the sexual content for those books that are available for minors that are 15 to 18?
Okay.
Do we have that?
There is some sexual content in those books, definitely. Yes, there are some relationships that happen in young adult materials. Whether it's in there as a minor note, it's not certainly graphic detail in a lot of those materials.
So we don't necessarily have a list of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable for a minor in those kind of relationships, sexual content.
At this point, we don't have it written out. No.
Well, I make a motion that we have something that's more of a guideline so that people reviewing the book know what they're looking for when they review the book, and something that's hard so that we all know. So when we present it to the public, when the public speak to us, we can say, this is the guideline. These are the things that we have come up with, looking with our lawyers at the obscenity laws, looking at our community and their standards. These are the things that are on our list. The book has to, and if you want to contest a book that you feel does not fulfill these standards, then we ask that you go to the local library and fill that out so that it can be reviewed.
So just with continuing, and I understand, and I would like to talk, say something on that too, but with continuing with my practice is I will, as chair, I will not entertain any motions that are not on the agenda. However, that being said, it would be entirely appropriate at this moment to request that information from Director Chang to have a report for us at the next meeting, and even possibly for during email, email the stuff to us or whatever the case is. I would say it was entirely appropriate to do that. As a matter of making a motion and then a second and then going through the process of voting on it, I think that would be entirely inappropriate in this setting. However, that is something that you could ask to be added to the agenda for the next meeting.
Then that is what I would like to do. I'd like to ask that be added to, so that we have a list, so that we know, so that we can then discuss the list, vote on the list, or bring other things to the table.
And so what I would ask is that if you could give that in writing, email, whatever the case is, to Director Chang, that way he can know exactly what you're requesting.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
I will do that.
Chair, can I get clarification? Yes. If I may ask, do you have, Ms. Nelson, an example of where you see that line being right now for yourself? That I can
Not
jump off from?
necessarily. Like I said, I would like our legal counsel, and you and I have discussed this before, going through looking what is the definition of obscenity, what is the guidelines, how does the state of Florida prosecute through the juvenile system for obscenity, and then from that make an educated list that is not somebody's personal, what I feel won't be what you feel. But I want to know what the law says and what our legal standing is and what we should be able to have and not have, so that we have a list that is very specific for us and for the public.
And I bet we can reference the bill that just passed in the state of Florida that's restricting pornographic materials. I think that would probably be a good starting point to see how they restricted. They're restricting that for underage minors.
And then we need, again, a definition of what pornography then entails. And do you see what I'm saying, Adam? I
do.
don't want it to come back on you or any of us. I want us to have something in writing, something specific, not just giving like, well, this is what we're doing now, but we don't know if the hands change in the board, which they have. How is the next one? They might have a different set of standards. We need to have a county set of standards that this is what we go by in our libraries.
So I would say, and if I may, please, if I'm speaking out of turn on this, Director, correct me, but I would say probably the largest challenge that the library system faces right now with regard to this is there's not really a precedent as far as public libraries are concerned on this matter. And so where that would lie is we're talking about creating an entire system that doesn't exist. So, and I'm not saying that the system doesn't need to exist. That's not what I'm saying at all. I certainly would agree. it sounds like my idea of adding labels to the book is sounding more and more intelligent every time, but I might be getting some text messages as we speak right now. And so, but I think the matter goes down to information.
Yes.
You know, I'm a firm believer in, you know, look, I believe that the public library represents people that are a lot more, they have various different opinions than I do. And I don't necessarily believe that I should dictate what they can or cannot check out.
Yes.
I think what has been consistently the unanimous, or at least it was a consensus of the feeling is what we have accessible to minors, and I think everyone shares that opinion. I think the main thing I want to be cautious with is that, number one, we want to develop policy that is not going to get us into judicial peril. And then two, we want to also make sure that we develop policy that is going to be forward-looking for the future, that's going to make sure that we're taking care. And then the other thing is I want to make sure that we have the resources to be able to support this policy. So I know that staffing is already, they have jobs they're doing right now. And so I think it gets down to we need to reevaluate something that we have mentioned before in how we audit these books. You know, we have talked about that there was a formal auditing process, and that had some guidelines that weren't only necessarily based upon merit, but also based upon, you know, the number of checkouts and so on, and literary value and all of those different things. And we sort of stopped that auditing because of the 2010, 2008 crisis, of when we couldn't purchase anything. So we needed books on the shelf. And I think if we can get back to something that makes sense, I don't want to get into the place to where we are banning books at all. That is not, I don't think that's good for anybody. However, I think it's pretty clear that the majority of the public has just they've got an interest in how are these children accessing things, what are we telling the public, what are we telling parents, what kind of warnings are we giving them, what kind, you know, just a matter of giving them the information. I say this, you know, children should not be left unattended in a library, you know, like they should. Matter of fact, when you walk into this building, there's a sign there that says minors unattended are not allowed in the building. And you know, that also comes down to parenting, right? You know, parents who just let their parents or their children run around the library freely without any supervision, in my opinion, they're using the library as a babysitter. However, as a parent who parents in such a way that I want to make sure that I have access, I want to know what all of, you know, everything in my house has a passcode, you know. My children can't access certain Amazon Prime accounts without a passcode. Their Netflix account, whatever the case is, there's passcodes and locks on everything, and that's because I'm coaching baseball. I'm serving on the library advisory board. I'm, you know, pastoring a 1,000+ member church. You have all of these things. I've got to be able to be efficient with the information, and I think that there probably are ways that the library can get that information to people without restricting what kind of access people have. You know, when I say that, you know, adults. So I think probably we need to think about a process, what that process looks like. I am not for doing anything just on the fly, just for the sake of, because there's a need. You know, there is a need, but I think we need to work and make that process intelligent to where it doesn't hinder the library staff in such a way. And, you know, there's got to be some kind of information out there. I know that movies, you know, have the information. There's got to be a way that we can do this without causing more heartache and stress on you as the director and your staff. So I would say, you know, that's something that we can talk about and maybe have something for the next meeting. You know, Mrs. Nelson, I would ask you that you would give that information to Director Chang. And here's the one thing I want to say, and for the new members of this board especially, and some of the, is anything I have ever asked from Director Chang is done his very best to provide an opportunity or a way forward.
Yes.
Literally everything. Anytime I needed to meet, Director Chang said, "When are you available? I'll make my time available." And that has been the case since I've served on this board. So I know that there was, you know, some public input with regard specifically to Director Chang, and I just want to say that has not been my experience with Director Chang. Director Chang has been an ear. I do realize that you have a huge weight of responsibility that is on you, not only for this community, but also for those who work for you. And so I just want to make that very well known that Director Chang is not a problem. He is a solution. So I would just encourage everyone to reach out to him, call him, set up a meeting, you know, blow up his email, whatever, talk to him. I think you will find that he's not what has been portrayed, okay? However, that being said, I do feel that there is enough of a consensus that we do need to look at what our path forward is, okay? Anyone else? Anybody have any comments?
Yes, I appreciate everything that was said here. I don't disagree with anybody. I know that this is a particularly sticky wicket.
Yeah.
At the risk of stirring the pot, can a 14-year-old person go into the adult section and check a book out?
Yes. Yes.
That's another problem then, isn't it? I mean, we're hoping to come up with a remedy, and I want us to have a remedy, and I don't know what it is, because as I said, it's a sticky wicket. But even if we moved every one of these books to the adult section, 12-year-old could still go in and check it out.
Yes.
And a 12-year-old the library would like them to be adult attended, but they are not always. Is that correct?
Correct. That again is the parent involved in that. If the parent lets them come to the library, we as library staff let that child use the library's resources.
Okay.
We don't restrict those resources, assuming that the parent is saying, you can go to the library and you can check out a book. You can get these books. Yeah. You know, that is not always the case. I don't believe that parents are having that conversation, but I know as my children grow up, you know, and I have conversations with them, if I tell them you can go to the library after school to study, that's my expectation of them. The staff don't know what that child is supposed to be doing at the library. The staff don't know that I said, you can't go in the adult section and check out a book. So it makes it a little bit hard on staff to be able to enforce something like that when it really is the parent who's given that permission to say, you know, go to the library after school. You can, you know, get what you want. If you're an avid reader and you're reading those books in the adult section at 14, 15, you know, that's a family decision.
All I'm saying is that this is a difficult thing to
Absolutely. Yes.
get a hold of.
Yes. We do have a lot of families that like their children to be able to read whatever they want to read. And, you know, it's not always clear what guidelines each family has set up individually for their families, what they let their kids read. What I let my kids read might be different than or it certainly will be different than what a lot of others might let their children read based on, you know, what we have decided as parents.
Well, since it's kind of come up, I think in some past conversations we've had, I related a story from my childhood where basically on my library record it said that I could choose whatever books from whatever section I wanted to, and I could read anything that I selected. Now, of course, when I got home, that might have changed, but then, you know, it's an education and communication issue. And so one of the things I suggested is, and we can look at next time we meet is, do we need something like that on our library applications and or in the library record of 18 and under, or maybe not 18, 17 and under records, as far as like, leaving it up to the family, but being able to communicate that to the staff that, hey, I don't want my child checking out romance books, or whatever the situation may be.
I see that applicable in the school library, but I don't really see that applicable in the public library.
Oh,
Because you're talking about so much work for our staff. And you're talking about so much,
No,
because
all
they're
it
gonna
is
have
is-
to go back and collect those from each one, put it into, somebody's gotta collect
It's
it,
kind of
somebody's.
like, discussing how to opt in or opt out, basically. And so really, once it's in the application, or marketed as an option for families to put on their child's record. In other words, hey, we now have the system in place that you may tell us, communicate with us what you want your child to read or not read. And yes, in the beginning, it's going to be a little bit of staff work, but once it's in place, it shouldn't be overwhelming.
So I would say what you're saying, that's not a bad point, and I understand where you're coming from. Is you're talking about, okay, from here on out, when a person makes an application for a library card in the system, it says, they can read this level, whatever the case is, and so whenever the person's up there checking out, it would be automated. The problem is the system we'd have to have a system that does that. If there's not one developed, someone should develop one. That would be quite an idea. But with regard to people who already have a library card, I think that's where maybe you're talking about. And so that might be one of those things of where you would say, hey, we're just updating everybody's contact information, make sure you select, for the minors that this is that. Now, I realize that would mean basically re-inputting all of that information for every person with a library card. And I fully understand where that...
Not necessarily for every person, just every person who chooses.
But you'd have to review everybody that has a card to be able to do that. So you would have to have a mass update of everybody's cards.
Maybe
No,
you do it at
option.
renewal time. Maybe
No,
it happens the next
yeah,
renewal.
But then
whether
what
it
happens,
offers.
but like you said, it's a sticky situation, so what happens when his children got new cards and they have a restriction? My children have been going to the library for eons and they don't have that restriction on there. His kid's like, wait a minute, they just checked out that book and they're not supposed to. It's in the wrong section or whatever.
Well, that would be, that's totally dependent upon the family and the parent's decision. But what I'm advocating for is to be able to have the parent communicate that with the staff. I'm not saying to go in there and change every record ourselves. Okay, it's only like marketing and saying, hey, we have this little flyer that says, you now have the option to communicate with us what you want your child to read. Some are going to go, doesn't bother me either way, and I'm not even they're not gonna address the situation. Well, that's up to them. Others may say, oh yeah, I love that idea, and they're going to have their notes put on their child's record. I'm not advocating for, changing everybody's record. I'm just saying have parents be able to choose to have that option or make that option available.
Like a rating system with parental controls that allow the parents to say, if this book is rated.
However the system can do it.
Yeah.
I'm not a systems person, but Oh, I know you are, but, but basically, you know, it would just be something that the family can decide upon, but it's really what's lacking here is communication between that family and library staff.
I want to pick up on something that Edith was just talking about. If you take a look at our philosophy, which I have on page 39 and 40, and I think that's the most current one, it talks about, now read just snippets of it. Library Connection will be a diverse source of information representing as many viewpoints as possible. Library recognizes some items may be considered controversial and that any given item may offend patrons. We're building a balanced collection. Materials dealing with excuse me, controversial views, language, images are judged as entire works, not isolated passages. Here's the point that we really need to take a look at. Parents and legal guardians have the right and the responsibility to guide and direct the reading, listening, and viewing choices of their own minor children, and only their children. Parents or guardians who wish to limit or restrict the use of the library materials by their own children should personally oversee their selection. So that puts the responsibility back on the parents. Now, the library, back where I was on the board for a decade plus, you had to be 10 years old before you got a library card. If you went in with a library card and tried to take out a book in our library back in Flossmoor, very similar here, that most young people are going to be focused on things that they like. And until they're introduced to some of these other issues, I don't know to read that book. If it isn't a comic book or something like that, I'm not interested in it. One of my friends that I play golf with, who'd be more in your age, I was relaying the situation about the book that we all read. And he said, never heard of it, but if my kid brought home a book and would be reading it, I'd just be happy that the kid's reading a book, because he never reads books. It's a very tricky issue, but if you want to, go to the lawyers and have them kind of analyze what's pornography and what's not pornography, that's a very slippery slope to do. But if you take a look at our philosophy, it puts the responsibility on our parents.
Yes,
So-
all I'm advocating for is the capability of that parent to communicate with the staff. That's all.
So what has been validated is, Director Chang, your job is very difficult,
Yes, yes.
because in a matter of just a few minutes, we're pontificating on all sorts of different opinions, ideas, solutions even, and no doubt this is what you face every day of the week. So what I would say is number one, and I feel like it's a consensus of this board, is one thing we don't want to do is put unnecessary burden on the staff, and specifically you as well, Director Chang. However, I think, maybe it would be appropriate for you to give us some information next meeting or whatever, maybe clarify. And again, anyone in this board, you can ask questions to Director Chang. You don't have to wait till this meeting to ask questions. You can ask all of those questions to him. Sunshine Law does not govern you talking with Director Chang. You can talk to Director Chang all you would like, or all that he has time for, I would say. And maybe that would help every one of us have the information we need to make good decisions, to make good, and in reality, let's remember this, we're an advisory board, we're not a decision-making board. We advise the library, and we advise the county commission. So let's make sure we keep that in mind. I think we've heard enough information. Would anybody else like to say anything else? We're all good? All right. So that being said, we're going to move on to, let's see, where are we at? Special Library District Advisory Board member roster, special items.
Yes. So in your packet, you should have the roster, the updated roster. We'll update that again. There wasn't really any change with the chair, vice chair, but we'll make sure that we have that current for the next meeting as well. But you'll have your roster there for everybody that's now on this board.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Next is, do we have a report of officers and standing work groups? I see there's nothing there. Okay. Regular business, director's report.
Okay. All right. So I just have a quick report today because I have a special item a little bit further down about books, so I'll cover that towards the that section. We'll just get our kind of slides up here in a second. All right, so first thing is staffing update. So I have a couple staffing updates to go over with you all. First one is, as you all know, Renee Thompson retired in October. We have filled her region manager position with Sarah Heinz, who's in our audience today. She's our new region manager. She is over the Homosassa, Lakes region, and Floral City branches. Sarah was previously a branch supervisor at the Homosassa branch, and then before that, she also was a teacher, and she was a youth librarian. So a lot of experience with our libraries and kids. We also have, we hired a youth librarian to replace another retirement we had. We had a youth librarian retire, Debbie Robitaille, after 30 years of working for the library system. She retired, but we have filled her position. That also is at Homosassa. It will be, our new youth librarian will be starting early March. So just getting ready for summer. She'll be jumping right into summer reading. We are filling a position for a library services tech. We have interviews later today for that position. And then we're filling Sarah's previous position of branch supervisor. We have interviews for that one at the end of this week on Friday. And then the only other open position we have now, which is just closed, was for a custodian position. One of our custodians has moved up to another position within the county, so we have a vacancy there that we'll be filling shortly as well. And then the next one I have is the coastal region renovation. As many of you have seen, we did finish our Lakes region renovation, and now we're jumping into the coastal region renovation, which is going to look almost identical with a couple minor improvements that we've learned through that process. But one of the first things we did was we moved all of our public computers to a new location to temporarily open up some space so we could build that meeting room that we have over at Lakes region exactly as we have it over there. It's going to be over the central coastal region branch. So that's what that bottom picture is there. It's just an open space where right now, if you were to go to coastal region, you'll see that there are actually framing out the walls for that. So they're building a meeting room and then 2 study spaces as well. The lighting has all changed there. We've upgraded all the lighting already. And then the ceiling tiles were just delivered earlier last week. They got, I think, 7 or 8 pallets of ceiling tiles that they're updating, which will brighten that area significantly as well. And then the bottom left picture, we used to have bookshelves around our columns. We've taken those down to make a little bit more space, open them up, and then we've repaired that damage to the column that's there as well. But that's ongoing. We should be, you're good. No, we should be hopefully still wrapping that project up by the end of May is my kind of target date. If we don't finish by May, we're probably going to take a pause and then look to finish in August, just because starting at the beginning of June, we have summer reading, and I don't want to impact kids reading over the summer. So we'll delay that project if we need to, so we have those 6 to 8 weeks of kids coming into the libraries and be able to read throughout the summer.
Okay.
So that's my update for now. You're up.
Fantastic. Okay, so I will try to be quick today. So the first thing I have to talk to you about is our Citrus Reads promotions. So we've been doing these for a little under a year now. Our most recent one happened this past December into January. And so one of the newer things that we're doing with this promotion is we are working with our Friends of the Library groups, and each Friends group is sponsoring one of those Citrus Reads book club, our digital book clubs that we've been doing. So the last one had 354 checkouts, which is one checkout shy of our most popular title that we did over the summer. So we were very excited about that, and our Friends of the Coastal Region Library were the sponsors for that very first one. And then our next one actually starts today. Give Libby about another hour, and it should have the title populated in there. From the point where we push purchase in the morning, it takes about 2 hours to populate all of those digital titles into the catalog in Libby. But this upcoming title is Break Every Rule, which is a thriller. Surprise, surprise, we know our audience base around here, and they really like a thriller mystery book. And this particular title is sponsored by our Friends of the Homosassa Library. And so all of the promotions and things will have the Homosassa manatee for their friends group there on those. And then immediately following that one, we actually already had the dates picked for that are upcoming and current Citrus Reads, but the Together We Read is a digital book club that is run through Libby and Overdrive. We get sent an email and are told, hey, this is the title that we've selected, and then we can opt in or opt out from having that be in the catalog. And so that one starts on March the 13th and will run for 2 weeks until the 27th. So there's lots of titles that will be available. And so the key point for all 3 of these titles is the very first one that I talked about, and the one that's current, and then the one upcoming, is they are all available with no holds and no wait lists. So anyone who opens up Libby can check out that title because it is immediately available. All right, so some upcoming dates for you guys. This weekend we have the Floral City Strawberry Festival. We will have staff out both Saturday and Sunday. This is one of the larger festivals for us. I've already forewarned staff the weather is supposed to be beautiful, so it will be very busy, and they should anticipate handing out a lot of library crowns because that is the reward kids get when they go through our story walk. And so we will have the story walk out at the festival for everyone to read through, and then there's an activity that they'll be able to receive at the end. We'll do library cards and just have general information out for people who are attending, including our book that is there so that they can know, hey, if you get a library card today, you'd be immediately able to check out an ebook. So that's an exciting thing.
Yes, very.
We have 2 upcoming book sales. So the first one is our mega book sale, which is hosted by the Friends of the Citrus County Library System, affectionately known as Focals. That sale begins on Friday, March the 21st, and runs through Monday, March the 24th. And so that one is at the Citrus Springs Community Center. And you'll remember that that has become the new home for the book sale, but in this past October, we were unable to host it there due to the hurricane and that community center being used as a shelter. And so that was the sale where we were graciously taken in by the Chronicle. But we are back in the community center, so great news. There are lights that are fantastic. You'll be able to see all of your book titles that you're looking at, and bathrooms. Those were hey, we know how to make people happy at a book sale. So the second book sale is our Homosassa Friends of the Library Spring Sale. That one is hosted at the Homosassa Library, and it begins on Thursday, April the 10th, and is that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The key note for the Homosassa Friends sale is that they have DVDs and audiobooks. So if you are looking to fill out a DVD collection or looking for a disc that you lost for another series or something, always go ahead and check them out. And so those will be there. Those sales open up each day at 9 when the building opens. And then the last upcoming date for you that we have is our Volunteer Appreciation and Awards Ceremony, which is on Saturday, April the 26th. So all of you guys will be receiving invitations for that one. Unfortunately, I don't have the save the dates with me, but we will get those out to you prior to that event. but all of you are invited, and that is at the Central Ridge Community Center at 77 Civic Circle in Beverly Hills. And so that is a fantastic event where we are able to honor all of our volunteers of the year. We honor our teen volunteer of the year. And I believe there are some new awards that we will be presenting this year. So we are pretty excited about that one. But there's breakfast. So you guys get to come and have breakfast. And I usually have a goodie for you. It's a very exciting day. All right, so one of our newest promotions that we have available for people is Book Club in a Bag. And so what it is we give you a kit of books. And so the biggest request that we get from people is, hey, I'm part of a book club. The title we're reading is XYZ. And then we go to look it up in the system. And while we have a lot of copies, they're all checked out. They're all at another location. They're not available. And so what we've been able to do is we created these book clubs in a bag. So you get 8 copies of the book in the bag. There is a set of questions for you to be able to help guide your discussion as a book club. And they are one group. And so if you know your 8 people in your book club and you're ready to go, none of you have to try to source a copy of that book and cross your fingers that you're going to get the library copy before your book club meeting. So there are 15 titles that we have available. And so there's 3 book club in a bags at each of our branches, which are all available for checkout. And it's an extended checkout period. So it's not just your standard 2 weeks. You do get a little bit more time with that checkout so that you have time to read and then facilitate your book club and then return all 8 copies in your bag. So that's very fun. Yeah, see, it's a fun time. We try to do great things. Okay, so something that we really quickly just wanted to kind of give you an update on is a project that we've been working on behind the scenes. If you have been with our libraries for a while, you will note that in the last year or so, we have not been able to send text messages out to all of you with your notices, or if you have a hold available, if your book is going to become overdue. That is because we've had some issues making sure we had the ability to send those out without it costing an astronomical amount of money. So we have a new program that we are working on finalizing the rollout for, which will allow for email and text message notifications, which we're all pretty excited about. So I have some things to show you here. So the very first part that we have is that if you apply online to get a library card, you will automatically go through kind of a check system that will say if you're a county resident, kind of goes through a couple key points that we have set in the system to then say, yes, you can have a digital library card. And you get a library card immediately, and you're able to access the collection. It's starting as soon as you get that, yes, you have your card. It will also appear in your digital wallet on your phone, so Apple or Android, it's there. And if you already have a physical card, you can submit a form on our website that will be live soon that says, hey, I just want a digital card. I don't want to just use my physical card or have to remember it. Selfishly very excited about this because I'm on my second keychain card and it's about to bite the dust. So not having to have the large card is very helpful. So here you'll see we have a welcome series of emails set up that people will receive. It's a 4-part email. We talk about our libraries, our services, what our branch locations are, all the different things that they'll be able to access once they have a card through the system. And then you'll see, so we did this presentation for staff at our last all-staff meeting, which was right before Booked, so that's why Booked is still featured in there. But you'll get a courtesy notice if you have an item that is due soon, and that is sent 3 days or 1 day before it is due. You'll get your overdue notice, and so that will be sent 1 day after your book is overdue, and then 14 days after you've missed your due date for your item. These are the beautiful hold notices that you'll receive, and so you'll see that it does have a copy. It shows the title of the book, but it also shows a cover of the book because we know a lot of people go by the cover when they're putting something on hold through the catalog, and so it'll kind of be that quick refresher if they don't remember what that title was. And then it notes that their title is available for 7 days, and so you'll get it sent the day of when we check it into the system and say, hey, it's here waiting for you, and then a reminder 2 days before, so you've still got time to come by and get that picked up. And then we will also be able to send them card renewal reminders. So as a note, our library cards expire every 3 years, and that is just to ensure that we have updated contact information for people, that they're still living in county, that they're still wanting to use their library card, that sort of thing. And so this will kind of give them that 30-day notice that, hey, if you don't come in and renew your library card, you won't be able to use such things like Libby. And it will tell you that you're blocked and you're not able to access it. Some additional emails that we are working on getting sent out that are kind of secondary to our notices. We currently already send out monthly newsletters that have our top 40 of the bestsellers list that we order, and then our kids events email are a monthly send out to parents who would like to know what's going on in our libraries. Sorry. Other ones that we're looking at are birthdays and card anniversaries. So if you've had your library card for 20 years, you will get a thanks for having your library card for 20 years kind of email just to say, thank you for sticking with us. And then as we've noted in the last couple of years, we always need to be able to send out notices of, hey, if there's a hurricane coming, while we know you want your books, you can't come to the library if there's a hurricane coming on certain days. So just those kind of, those notices for emergency and storm closures. Okay, oh, sorry, forgot my paper.
Taylor, those are big deals. I mean, that is really cool. I mean,
it has been a long time coming, something that we've been looking forward to for a couple of years now. We had hoped to get it put into place before we were no longer able to have the text messages, but that didn't happen, but that's okay. And the text message portion, so those messages will look very similar when you're receiving a text message if you opt to receive those over emails. We're working through all the finer details, but that should all be set by the time we have our next April meeting. So,
impressive.
thank you. I will let our team know that has been working diligently on the behind-the-scenes portion know that you all think it looks really good.
Yes, very.
All right, so as we do every other meeting or so, we have our book list, book displays to review with you all. So some of the key points for April's book displays: it is National Poetry Month. That is also the month that we do a lot of displays to honor our volunteers, as it is Volunteer Appreciation. We kind of call it Volunteer Appreciation Month, but there is a National Volunteer Appreciation Week. Drop Everything and Read Day is there, Easter, but it is also National Library Week. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see book displays about books that are about libraries. Right? It's crazy. Sometimes we do the things that make sense, right? Okay, so next for May, we've got some different Mother's Day book displays going out. Oh, and I will also note, you will see that there are significantly fewer book displays at Coastal. That is because they don't have bookshelf space currently because we tore all of them down as part of the renovation. So as they start to get their new displays throughout the renovation, they will once again have book displays. But right now they don't have very many. So you'll see that we have a variety of Mother's Day ones, but we are also going to be starting to introduce our summer reading program displays and information. And so those will be going out starting in May. And then in June, the bulk of our displays will be based on summer reading and the topic and the themes. And so this year, the theme for summer reading is Brush Up on Books. And so there's a heavy art theme within that. Our youth librarians are still finishing up some of their planning for it. So by our April meeting, I should have a really good packet of stuff to give you, of goodies to kind of show off what they've been working on in preparations for summer reading. But that is what I have there. I feel like I was pretty quick today, guys.
Very good.
Taylor, did you say what time the Appreciation Awards?
10.
I was late last year.
10. The Volunteer Appreciation Award starts at 10, and I believe we typically start letting people in the door at 9:30. Oh, Debbie will be parking. If you see her in her red pants, she is her Debbie in the red pants persona outdoors. She loves it. It is her. She's very good at manning a parking lot.
Red shoes too, usually.
Yes, usually the red pants, the red shoes. That's when we know Debbie is going to be out telling people where to park their vehicles, so that we're.
Where to go and how to get there.
Yes, yes, very much so.
Go, Debbie.
Yes, she'll have her safety vest on too. Like we always try to be safe. Her neon yellow safety vest. But yes, Volunteer Appreciation Awards starts at 10. And if you were taking notes about the book sales, I remembered that I only told you what time the Homosassa sale opened. The Friday of the Friends of the Citrus County Library System mega sale opens at 3 o'clock that day. So you get a 3 to 7 window to shop on that Friday. Are you making a note?
Yes.
Hey, that Friday is the best day to go. You get your first pick of the selection that is there. So, all right, everyone.
Thank you, Taylor.
You're welcome.
All right, so booked update. Dr. Chang?
Yes, thank you, Chair. All right, so I just want to give you a quick update on our fundraiser that we brought back, Booked an Evening for Citrus Libraries. I know Bob is going to have a few things that he wants to mention as chair a little bit through this. But we had our event this past Saturday. Thank you all of you that I know some of you were able to make the event. Thank you for attending. It was a wonderful event to highlight the renovation project over at Lakes and also help to build some of that funding back for the money that we spent for Lakes and Coastal through that foundation fund. And it was just a very positive evening to kind of highlight our libraries and just see all the wonderful community support, supporting our staff and our libraries. So we had 230 people confirmed in attendance. That's tickets that we received back. And you'll see some of the pictures that we have here. We had a wine toss that people enjoyed throughout the evening, and there was a large silent auction, quite a bit of funds for us. And some of you that made it to the event, you might see your pictures up there a little bit. You're kind of interspersed in those crowds. And then overall, we were able to raise, we're still tallying the final numbers, but we know we've definitely raised at least $21,000 for the Library Partnership Fund in that event. And that's the most we've ever raised in a single fundraiser for the U.S. Partnership Fund. So we're very happy to see that figure. And my goal always for this event was to be able to restart it. It had a 5-year hiatus from 2020. Just to be able to bring it back was kind of my big goal. I didn't know what we would raise or how it would all come together. But with all the support of the volunteers, the committee, our friends of the library, and staff, we put together just a wonderful event that I can only see growing in future. And quite a lot of people attended. All positive comments I've heard so far, and I know many of you have spoken to me individually about the event. It's one that we're very proud of, and I want to say that the committee that worked on that and all the staff involved and the volunteers did a phenomenal job, and I'm extremely thankful that they were helpful with that and made this fundraiser come to life for us again.
Yes.
So, and Bob?
Well, Adam shared most of the things that I was going to talk about, but I was hoping that there would be hundreds of people here like there normally are. John, you needed to stir up the people and get them here so we could encourage them to come next year. But to those of you who are watching on TV, we did have over 200 people there. Special shout out to the business community, the individuals who donated various things like a few days in the Keys, Kemper of the Cove restaurant really exceeded my expectations, but as I heard from many people, it's the standard thing for him, and he was wonderful. I was a little disappointed that there weren't more people out on the dance floor, and maybe next year we can highlight that. A few of the people, I never participated in a wine toss, but being a former baseball player in college, I saw a few people who, if they have some years left on their eligibility, maybe they can go up and play for the Gators because they are a College World Series group. But a special thanks to all the people who volunteered. The committee members, we've kind of tallied it up a little bit. Collectively, we're over 1,000 hours.
Wow.
That doesn't include, there was a little mention of Debbie with the volunteers who help with the parking. I heard a number of comments from our friends that talked about how easy it was to park.
Yes, and they had
And-
such good, they made it funny while they were helping you park too. It was really nice.
But the county people also supported it. We had a couple of commissioners, there was a judge there, our county administrator was there, the business community was there, and I really appreciate everybody's help with that. And Save the Date next year. John, when you're writing out your thing in your Citrus Crusader, I'm looking for a little punchline. We'll give you some of these pictures to help us advertise for next year. So lots of people are passionate about the library. Some of us have different views than others, but I think we're all trying to get to the same place
Yes.
and help make our library great for our kids, for our community. And being new to the area, I really think that this library here, from the advisory board to the people who run it, do a first-class job.
Yes.
And
Hey, hey.
I have sent back many things to the Flossmoor Library to say, hey, do something like this. And especially the two interesting things were the book club in a bag. And Taylor, do you want to talk about the puzzles a little bit at some point? So, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I attended. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't know what to anticipate. Of course, Bob, you chaired the committee, and congratulations. Good job. Excellent job, staff. It's obvious that the staff put a lot of work into it. It was clear, and I am sure come Monday morning the staff put a lot of work into it. It was, to my understanding, that the staff were to be there at 7 in the morning on Monday, and so thank you all for your hard work. And the number is a pleasant surprise. I was, I think, across the board for the fact that, number one, it hadn't been done in 5 years. For it to come about and be done this year, and to raise $21,000, to have a attendance of 230 people, and just great job, very good job. So, and all that money is going to go right back into the account to raise money for more, so we can keep fixing our libraries. By the way, Lakes Region, all of the thing, I think several people who had not been in there since the renovations had commented and said how nice everything looked, and I hope that we didn't stain the carpet too bad. Anybody else? All right, so seeing there's no old business, we'll go into new business. U.S. Family Foundation status report. And I believe we have a copy of that.
Yes, it's one of the last pages in your packet.
Yep.
So you have the report. This one came out, this is the end of September. We run a little bit behind with getting these reports, but you'll see the number that I think you're looking for here is the total net assets you have. Right now, it's $281,000 as of September 2024.
Okay.
So there's more than that in the account now because we've had some gains there, and we've done our fundraiser, so we'll be some more in there. But as of September, there was 281, 573.67 in there.
Okay. And of course, the change in net assets for that particular one would be, of course, the money that was pulled out for
The Coastal Region Library
Coastal
renovation.
Region Library, and then in addition, the money pulled out for the fundraiser?
Yes, I'm not sure that that's in the September number, but it was $10,000 pulled out, which will come back to the fund. That's not including the 21, so there'll be 31 back going in.
Wow, very nice.
Yep. So I should have said that was net. We raised 21 net.
Yeah, that is good to know. When you said that, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
Great.
Any questions on that, anyone? Okay. All right, so next is board member updates. Any board member updates? I would like to say congratulations to the new board members, and then, of course, congratulations, Mrs. Benefield, for being reappointed. Thank you. Overall, this is a pleasurable experience. You know, we do have meetings that sometimes run longer than others, and sometimes some hard work we have to do, but this is usually a very pleasurable experience. Library staff, as always, they roll out the red carpet for us and do a really good job of making sure we have the information we need. And it's been my pleasure to serve on this board for now. It has been 2 years, and I have been appointed for 2 more years. So you guys got me for 2 more years. So We look forward to being with you and working with you, and so thank you. So that's all I want to say. Anybody else?
Well, I just, thanks to Bob, did a great job with that stuff, and Adam, you guys really did good work. Excellent.
Yes, I want to say that I took my older daughter to that, and she just was blown away by it. A 30-year-old, like, this is it. And she was like, now next year my goal is, Mom, to help you get it full of 30-year-olds.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was a good, we always have to set goals to have something to go to. I also wanted to bring up that I have registered to go to the Capitol for Library Days, which is coming up March 11th. So if anybody else is interested in going, I'd be happy to ride with you.
Anyone else?
Yes, getting back to Booked again, which was a wonderful evening, my first since 5 years it hasn't been around. I wanted to help promote the event as much as I could, and being the former editor of a newspaper, the Greenbelt Gazette, that is published specifically by the Chronicle for Sugar Mill Woods, there's an article here about the event.
Yay.
Also, I'm a member of Nextdoor that's specific to Sugar Mill. I posted it on there. And then the Chronicle, this morning, if you get the Chronicle, you saw the photos, a few photos of the event. And then also, there was an article promoting the event. And so hopefully that gained a few more people. And I'm really looking forward to going to next year's event as well. And my husband had a good time too.
Anyone else?
I just want to quickly thank you all for the warm welcome today. I'm meeting most of you for the first time, except for the library staff, who I have a very fond appreciation for. They're super smart and my go-to people for all things information, especially during emergencies. I don't know if you guys know this, but our librarians are the citizen information line people. So I work with them mostly during hurricanes, but also whenever I have questions about books. So I am looking forward to working with you all even more. Have great respect for you. I just thank you all for what you do every day.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. So, of course, the next meeting is April the 22nd at 9 a.m. And so that'll be right here in this room. So we look forward to see everybody there. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, second?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day.